with you, Sam. Indeed I do. I would say it was an excellent piece, in fact. Did you see the looks and expressions of reverence on the faces of the other curators? They were rapt, so attentive and careful as they held the headdress, like so." He rested his glass on the arm of his chair and held up the imaginary artifact. "Ooh, how different it is! Ah, the majesty, and so on." He put down the invisible headdress on his lap and fetched back the brandy. "And yet, I wonder, if such a thing had been found on British soil, would it have been treated with such awe and respect, such veneration by academics? I think it would more likely be relegated to folk history and not worthy of much regard." Sam had heard sentiment like this before. "But we recognise that familiarity breeds contempt," he said at last. "And you know as well as I do, Sept, that our moon talismans, hagstones and athames have generated as much admiration in Scandinavia as their headdresses and artefacts do here." The old man brought his head down to his chest, as if chastised, then looked up suddenly. "Quite right, Sam. This is why I need you, why your appearance in my life has been so thoroughly—" He paused and sniffed the air. "Symbiotic," he said, pleased his brain had supplied the correct adjective. "You keep me on the right path. That is, not on the left nor the right." Then he winked. "Sometimes when one reaches my age, it is all too easy for one's gaze, one's thoughts, to fall on what is not well with the world, rather than appreciate in it all that is true and fair." Sam laughed and nodded, feeling rather pleased. "Surely not," he said, "though I understand what you mean." "I know you do, dear Sam," the old man agreed. The silence that unfurled between them was not awkward or discomforting, but quite the opposite. The pair enjoyed it and refilled their glasses. After a while Septimus looked into the fire and said, "Did I ever tell you about my encounter with an Icelandic shaman?" The young man's attention was brought swiftly to Brooke. "No, you did not, and now you cannot keep it to yourself." It was Septimus's turn to rattle out a laugh. "Oh, it was many, many years ago," he said, and started, as the fire in the hearth spluttered and gave out a spark, which thankfully landed on the tiles and not the carpet. "I haven't said your name yet," Septimus whispered to it. Sam frowned. That was odd. He wasn't sure whether to challenge the old man on it or to let it go. Was it a sign, he wondered? Septimus was getting on a bit after all. But before he could act on any impulse, the owner of the Witch Museum withdrew his gaze and said, "I had received an assignment in Reykjavik. It was during the war. We had invaded Iceland then, you know." Sam met his friend's gaze with brows hoisted high. "Oh, yes, that was a thing," Septimus said, misjudging Sam's countenance. "I have a vague notion that happened," said Sam, deciding the aside to the fire was an uncharacteristic expression of whimsy, most likely brought about by the warmth and the brandy. He dismissed his initial misgivings and took up the conversation again. "We invaded Iceland?" Septimus nodded. "It was a strategic island, important for the North Atlantic sea lanes, and very well laid out for naval bases and air bases and so on. Not many people seem to be aware of what the Brits did back then, but anyhow, I digress. As I said, I was instructed by Commander Fleet back at the Bureau to investigate a manifesting medium on tour in Reykjavik. The authorities...